My guest today did something that most of us only think about when we're sitting in the waiting room. He straight up fired his doctor. Not like, hey, I'm getting a second opinion, but like, hey, doc, you're done. And honestly, it might have saved his life.
About a month before I turned 50, I got diagnosed pre-diabetic. And the same doctor that I'd gone to for 18 years, he's like, hey, we're going to put you on this and shots. I'm like, F that. I love you. Hopefully you don't take this the wrong way, but I'm firing you right now.
Yeah.
I need something that's way more proactive than this standard medicine.
Typical family medicine doctors aren't actually finding the root cause or what the problem is. They're treating symptoms. And that's one of the biggest problems, I think, right now with healthcare. And I do think there's a lot of health benefits that come from that are opposite of what traditional medicine is.
Discipline, work ethic, commitment, self-drive. Those are the things that I look at that separate the great from the good. Everybody that ascends to the top has that. And I think that's what people miss. And you can learn that. Just outwork everybody else.
Welcome to the JV Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Vasquez. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the JV Pod. I have a super fun guest today. Before we dive into what we actually talked about, if you haven't already heard, I'm holding the biggest, the baddest, the most, just literally the best midterm rental summit on the planet because there is no other one. And last year we had 650 people and Cody Sanchez speaking. This year we got Pace Morby, Dan Martell, and a ton of other people that are going to help you build your midterm rental business. If you're looking to do this, you're absolutely going to want to show up to this. This is going to be April 27th through the 29th in the beautiful city of San Diego. If you're looking at building a successful midterm rental business, you need to be at this event, not only for one specific reason, but I think midterm rentals, if you're able to connect with other people, that's what actually makes you succeed in this space. It's one of those businesses that allows you to connect with others, and being at the Midterm Rental Summit is exactly where you want to be. So April 27th through the 29th in San Diego, head over to midtermrentalsummit.com to get your tickets. They're selling fast. Don't be late. Okay, so I'm actually going to talk to you now about my guest, what he did. Man, my guest today did something that most of us only think about when we're sitting in the waiting room, flipping through a 5-year-old People magazine. He straight up fired his doctor. Not like, hey, I'm getting a second opinion, but like, hey, doc, you're done. And honestly, it might have saved his life. Bill Faeth went from living on Diet Coke and bad decisions to completely transforming his health. And somehow he's still drinking wine, which I actually respect. We're talking about what's wrong with modern medicine, what actually works, and why your doctor probably isn't giving you the full story. So buckle up, or at least stop drinking that gas station soda, and let's get right into it. Dude, I'm bored of talking about short-term, midterm. Like, I'm just bored of it, man. Like, this stuff right now we're talking about, for those of you who haven't seen Bill in a while, he's got a jawline. He's got, like, his face is looking small. Dude, your stature's looking good. And he was talking about Gary Brecka doing all the, are you on TRT or anything like that? Or just?
No, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just doing supplements, Shilajit, creatine, NAD I do as well. You know, the whole red light therapy, the sauna, cold plunge every single day. Lifting weights for the first time in probably 26, 27 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm 51. So, I mean, you know, I'm not in there, just, bench pressing 225 20 times. But
what are you doing in there?
So, I mean, I've got a full gym really right to the right of my studio here. I've got everything that I can imagine. But I mean, I'm doing push-ups. I'm doing bench press. I'm doing lat pulls. I'm working out legs. I'm doing everything you could imagine. And I spend probably 2 hours every morning. So I can't sleep. That's a whole nother thing. I just went through this whole 32-day process of trying to reset my circadian rhythm. And one of the big things that I shared with you, Jesse, is I'm 51. About a month before I turned 50, I got diagnosed pre-diabetic. And the same doctor that I'd gone to for 18 years, and our kids go to school together. I've got a relationship with him. And he's like, hey, we're going to put you on this and shots. I'm like, fuck that. Let's do something that's, proactive as opposed to reactive. I don't want to do insulin, all that stuff. And long story short, I said, look, Peter, I love you. Hopefully you don't take this the wrong way, but I'm fucking firing you right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can still, hang out and drink a bottle of wine, but I need something that's way more proactive than this standard medicine. So I went and I spent more money than I ever thought I would to get a concierge doctor for me and my wife. And that changed everything. I've been following Gary Brecka, 10X Health, well, soon to not be 10X Health.
It's not 10X anymore, yeah.
Having a huge issue. But I did the death test with him, same thing that Dana White, if anybody's seen him on Instagram, I call it the mother effer, the MTFR test for gene mutation, all that type of stuff. I flew down there and spent 2 hours with him, which is actually the most money I've ever spent for consultations on a per hourly basis.
Are you
People
serious?
think I'm crazy charging $1,500 for an hourly coaching call.
Yeah.
It was $4,000 an hour for him. I got him for 2 hours, and we got on a call with Craig, my doctor, and we went through I'd got all my hemoglobin, my triglycerides. I did a cancer test. Heart disease runs in my family. That's why I was really worried about being that much overweight when I was diagnosed pre-diabetic. So I did this MRI scan where they put you on beta blockers for like 24 hours to slow your heartbeat down. And then they do an MRI at the speed to match your heartbeat, to where then they send it to John Hopkins. This is through my concierge doctor. I found out I had 27% blockage right where the widowmaker splits to go around your heart. And my doctor's like, Bill, you're in, this is a year ago, roughly. He's all, you'd already lost like 40, 50 pounds. You're in better shape. But if you have a heart attack on a plane, as much as you fly, you're dead. There's no question about it. So then we started doing this whole other stuff with collagen and, all these other things. And I just went back in actually about 3-4 weeks ago, and that 27% blockage is now 16%.
Dang. So it's going down. So I want to go back to this real quick, the pre-diabetic stuff, because I think right now, like I forget the math. I wish internet correct me on this. I think it's like 1 in 3 is pre-diabetic, and even like going into kids range from like 5 to like 17, I think like 30 or 40% of kids are actually pre-diabetic right now. So when you got your glucose level checked, so in order to be pre-diabetic, you got to be anywhere from 101 to 119. I think 120 is where you're considered a diabetic. So what were you ranging when you were getting your labs? Were you like 108, 110?
No, I was like between 115 to 120.
So you're right there on the high end of everything.
100%. And here's one of the big things I haven't mentioned yet. And I just quit this on June 26th of this year, actually in Sorrento, Italy. Went on a 3-week vacation with my family. And for whatever reason, I just decided at breakfast, I got a Coke Zero because they don't have Diet Coke in Italy. And I was drinking 120 to 160 ounces a day of Diet Coke. And I did, for whatever reason, I had a drink of that Coke Zero, and I just pushed it aside and drank water. Haven't had caffeine since then. So it's been 8-9 months. I drank probably 150, 200 ounces some days. The 24 ounce bottles. I drank fucking 10 of those in a day.
Yeah.
And that was a whole nother thing. And then I went into my doctor, and I didn't share that. Do you drink caffeine? Yes, is usually the answer, right? And that had a huge role in the overall health as I, got a consult with Gary and then was talking with my doctor. I can't keep up with all the stuff, to be honest with you. I'm not smart enough to figure all that out. I do what they tell me to do. I do a little bit of research to try to question and make sure I'm going down the right path. But I'm also very, very obsessive with everything that I do. So I've gone pretty hardcore. But the one thing I loved about Craig, my doctor, is I remember when we started talking about my eating habits, how many times a week are you eating meat and what are you eating? And I used to be like the Sonic double cheeseburger for breakfast guy before I'd go to the golf course when I was fat.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not a big steak guy, but I love a good cheeseburger. I make them at least once or twice a week, blah, blah, blah. When I am traveling, if me and my wife go to, a steakhouse, I'll probably get a filet. And, I'm big Italian guys. We eat a lot of pasta.
Yeah.
And I used to be a huge Mexican guy when I lived in California, but you can't find good Mexican back here. So I kind of don't get much of that. But anyways, instead of saying, cut it and, go become a vegan or whatever, he's like, have 2 servings a week, 2 servings of pasta, 2 servings of red meat, whether it's filet, burger, pork, whatever it is. And just load up on, he's all, what fish do you like? I said, I love snapper. I love halibut, all that stuff. He's all, load up on that as much as you can. And just do me a favor. If you're on a trip, and like we were just in Big Sky boarding and skiing a couple weeks ago. So we ate out every night.
Yeah.
And I literally had chili one day, and it was loaded with like elk and bison and all that type of stuff. And it was the best chili I ever had. We go to a steakhouse that night, and I was getting ready to order a ribeye. And my wife's like, hey, you probably should have the salmon tonight. You already had, a big serving of meat in that chili today. And I need help just like anybody else, right? So she helps me. She's a fitness coach, or used to be. So it's kind of helpful to have her there, but I still get the stuff. Hey, I've been telling you this shit for 15 years and you wouldn't listen to me, right?
Yeah. So you had to have that kind of wake up call in order to be like, okay, I need to get my health in order. I want to be around longer. You got kids too. So it's like, did you start coming face to face with like your mortality, or have you always thought about that?
I did a little bit in that instance because I had a really close friend and client in Indianapolis who was probably 5'8", 5'9", 400 pounds, and he died during COVID due to COVID, right? He died because he was fat and his, throat was squeezing his esophagus. And then I thought about Chris, who works for me, who like runs my conference and does all that type of stuff. And he was 400 pounds. And we were in Jersey and we went back to Philly and couldn't get 2 rooms at the I'm a Marriott guy. And so we had to room together. And it was the first time we'd ever roomed together. He worked for me for probably 4 or 5 years at that point. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I thought he was dying. And I jumped out of bed and I grabbed him and I shook him. And he gets back and I said, you need to go see a sleep, doctor. And he went to his regular doctor. They went and did a sleep study and he was having like 160 episodes a minute.
Damn.
When he was sleeping. And he was so fat, they said that his fat was squeezing his esophagus and in his throat and he couldn't breathe. And, he went on this journey and lost 200 pounds. And, so that I was really worried about COVID. So like my wife, is a hardcore Trumpster, anti-vaxxer, all that type of stuff. I'm right down the middle of the line politically. And I remember when I went to get a vaccination because I was afraid my friend Ken had already passed away. And she's like, I can't believe you're getting that. And I'm like, dude, I've also had 2 bouts of pulmonary embolisms.
Yeah.
My heart disease and my family, all 3 of my grandparents on my mother's side, my mother all died due to coronary disease. And I'm like, I just can't take that risk. I don't care about political view on this. And so I got the jab and then I got, the booster. And then I got COVID, like literally like 6 weeks after getting the booster. I'll never forget it. But here's the deal. I started this in March, April of 2023. I also used to get so sick, Jesse, every winter. It would start with a cough and then I would get bronchitis and I'd have to go to the doctor. I got COVID between Christmas and New Year's of 2022. Have not been sick since then. Not one time, not a cold, nothing since I've changed my life. Right. And it's amazing. I'm going to ski. Are you a skier or a boarder by chance?
Boarder, yeah. I like snowboarding. Yeah.
So dude, the hardest fucking thing I've ever done in my life. I'm new to boarding. I suck at it. And I've like cracked ribs this year and everything, but
whole body workout.
So like when we go to Aspen, I'm taking my board and my skis and I'll ski for a couple of days. And the last 2 days, my wife will let me board so I don't hurt myself on the first day. Absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done. But the thing is that I'm going to probably be out 40 days plus this year of skiing and snowboarding. And I'm like a 5 or 6 hour a day guy. My wife's like a 3 hour girl and she gets tired. There is no chance that if I haven't fixed all of this stuff that I would be able to do that. And that's the thing that I love about having a concierge doctor and a guy like Gary on my team to build out the plan of everybody that I know is what died. I don't know my father's side. I didn't have a father growing up, but my mother, my grandfather, my mother, they all died between 74 to 76. My wife, I almost said husband. My wife's father just passed away about 4 weeks ago.
Oh, damn.
He was 77 years old. And if anybody has been to the STR Wealth Conference, the second one I did, I brought in my friend Martin Cove, who was Sensei Kreese, with Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, all that type of stuff. And he's the exact same age as my father-in-law who passed away. And my father-in-law was sedentary the last few years and just kind of withered away, right? And Marty is still ripped. Like he still has pecs. He has guns.
Yeah.
Takes such good care of himself. And he's 77, but he's probably 60 years old, in reality. And I told my wife, and this was before my father-in-law, Rod, passed away, I said, I want to be like Marty when I'm 76. I don't want to be like your father. And that was kind of the impetus for us to both, my wife's made these similar changes too, and she's battling, some stuff. And I don't want to live to be 100, but I want to board with you when I'm 65. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what's crazy is, Bill, I see that happening a lot now with RFK, who's like, 76, 70, yep. 75? Dude's freaking jacked and just like doing pull-ups and jeans and stuff like that. And like, that's the new thing, man. Like, I used to think back when I was in my 20s, Bill, like if you were 40 or like I'm 42 right now, I'm not too far behind you. Like when you're that age, you're just done. Like it's over. But like,
How old did a 42-year-old look when you were 20?
bro, old.
They look like 65-year-olds, 70-year-olds now, right?
I know. And what I'm saying is like now that I'm at this age and I see like how I feel and all that, I don't feel as good as I used to. I'm getting back into the workout cycle and stuff that you're doing. But dude, I feel like I'm just getting started. And you probably feel like that right now at 50, 52. Like you probably feel that exact same.
51, easy. 51. I got a couple more months.
51. Do you feel like that? Like you're still like, do you feel like you're in the prime right now? Or do you feel like, because I know you played golf and stuff back in the day, you were super athletic. Do you still feel like you're getting back to that, maybe even some kind of better shape now than you were even then?
I'm definitely not as strong as I used to be. I've always had really, like, even when I do my body scans, I am like in premium level, like waist down, but I don't have any upper body strength. Like I've still got to put on like another 2.5 pounds of upper body muscle. But my legs, my quads, my calves, they're awesome. So that's why I can ski all day. I can run. I can still run 7 miles, no problem. But when I was fat, I couldn't walk a mile without stopping. Right, my shins hurt, shin splints, knees, all that type of stuff. So I do feel good. I think I feel great for my age, but I definitely don't feel like I'm 25 in good shape when I was playing professional golf. But I feel so much better than when I was 300 pounds, right? And so like I've got a client friend right now. We have a group chat. I still have my coaching programs in other industries and stuff, and I have this weekly call. And he was 418 pounds and he lost 37 pounds in his first month. And we're holding him accountable to it. He's just doing steps and trying to eat healthier at this point, right? He's just completed his first month and he lost 37 pounds in 30 days. And everybody's like celebrating him and everything. I said, hey, Kurt, good job. But that's like the fucking Titanic losing a deck chair. Don't forget, I was fat just like you were 2 years ago. So let's get these 5,500 steps a day up to 7,500. Just add 100 a day. It's like an extra 3 minutes of walking. That's it. And we got him up to 7,500 steps now. And then next month we'll get him to 10,000 and just these increments. And I think a lot of people get discouraged because they don't set goals, whether it's in business, weight loss, life, whatever. So you got to incrementally take baby steps to be able to get there, but you got to start executing. That's the big thing. And I did need that diagnosis for whatever reason. It wasn't my mother passing away. It wasn't Ken Carter who passed away in late 2020 during COVID. It was me to get diagnosed being pre-diabetic to really have that hit home hard enough for me to take action.
Yeah, I know. I feel like sometimes people need to have that wake up call. It's just like, hey man, you gotta get it together right now. I want to go back to your diet beforehand because this is an important piece. I think it sounds like you've completely shifted your diet. You're a guy that likes to go out. You're a people person. Like, are you still sipping on some booze? You sipping on wine still? Like, what does that look like when you're, traveling and stuff? Are you, in the morning, are you having like a shake? And then for lunch, you're having like a few eggs and salmon or something? Like, what does your meals look like? And let's compare what you were doing before to what you're doing now.
Yeah, before it was like hit Sonic right around the corner and get a double cheeseburger and a number 2. Double cheeseburger, Sonic double cheese, large fry, 44-ounce Route 44 Diet Coke, right? That was breakfast. And then it would just consume the same shit all through the day. And I was a grazer at night. If we're at home or watching a hockey game or whatever, we're having a bottle of wine, then it's the charcuterie, the crackers, all the garbage that goes in. I mean, I was probably 3,500, 4,000 calories a day and nothing healthy. Nothing. My wife had to make 3 sets of meals, one for the girls, one for her, and then one for me when she would cook because I wouldn't eat anything healthy. Today, so I kind of do the Marky Mark, intermittent fasting, then do a carnivore day, and then try to reset where I used to just do a 16-8. Was it 16-8? Yeah, 16-8 fasting. I'm actually I'm about 70. What am I at? No, I'm about 65 hours into an 65 hours into an 84-hour fast right now. So it'll be the 4th time that I've done this. Gary Brecka inspired. My wife and I are flying to New York tomorrow. We're going to dinner tomorrow night. So I got to make it till 6 p.m. Our reservation's at 6 p.m. Eastern, which will be 84 hours of a fast. So I try to do that a couple times a year. But today I don't eat breakfast except for when I reset. So I'll take 3 to 4 days of fasting, and I'll try to do 16 to 18 hours of fasting. Then I'll eat inside of that period, and it's usually like a salad with chicken or, salmon or whatever during the day. I'll have, my 2 servings of meat at night. It's probably a burger and a filet, each week.
Yeah.
But really heavy on salmon, halibut, snapper, salads. And we always have at least pasta once a week. I'm not disciplined enough to do the Gary Brecka and, no pastas, I love sourdough bread. So I'll have like 2 slices of sourdough bread toast. Like, man, if you ever run across San Luis sourdough, by the way, from San Luis Obispo in your market, please let me know and I'll have you ship me a box. We can't get that shit back here, and you can't buy it online. So, but that's the one thing I love about the program. It's really my program. It's not a program that my doctors put me on, so I can still have some of that stuff. I'm not eliminating everything. But the big thing, one, Diet Coke gone. I don't graze anymore at night. I take a semi GLP-1 supplement to help curb my appetite. I'm not, doing Ozempic or Mounjaro or anything like that. It's a pill form that's approved by both my doctor and Gary to actually take. Because I will, if I don't have something to help curb, I will graze at night, especially when I'm not busy, right? If I'm just hanging out with the kids or with my wife, I will be in my pantry into their shit, and I can't do that because one muffin turns into 3. It's like Pringles, right? Once you pop, you can't stop. And I don't have that willpower. So I have to just completely eliminate that. And that big thing for me is water. I drink Zen water, alkaline water, the blue bottles. And I'm doing probably 120, 150 hours a day or 150 ounces a day. I do electrolytes twice a day. I do sugar-free drip drop electrolytes twice a day with about 40 ounces of water, 20 ounces each. And that's just, it's the polar opposite of what I used to be. I do not track my calories anymore. When I was trying to lose weight, I started at 1,800. Then I pushed about 2,000. Then I bumped that up to 2,400 because I was doing, 30, 30, 30. So I would fast 3-4 days. I would carnivore one day, and still healthy carnivore, right? But I would really protein load on a lot of meat, a lot of fish, that type of stuff. Maybe have some pizza on the carnivore day. Then I would go in the morning, and instead of, doing my fasting through the night from like 6 p.m. till 2 p.m. in the afternoon, then I'll go do 30, 30, 30 for a couple of days and then go lift weights and get onto my cardio. So I do incline 15 on my treadmill for 30 minutes at a speed of 3. So it's heavy state walking. And now I've got a vest. I've got a 25 pound to 35 and a vest that goes up to 50 pounds. And I'm in the 35 range when I'm doing my walking on my treadmill at incline 15 now. So just trying to do all those things. And one of the things I didn't know is that you've got to shock your system, right? So you can't that's the great thing about doing heat, sauna, then doing cold plunge, mixing up. I was just fasting. And then that's when my doctor said, hey, look at what Mark Wahlberg does. And that's why I call it the Marky Mark. And, he's mixing it up. And so we have 3 different configurations of 3-day fasting, 4-day fasting, carnivore, 30, 30, 30. One day could be 2 or 3 days. Then we'll go in reverse. And just to keep the body thinking. And even if you just get in a cold shower for the first time, as cold as it will go, people, for 30 seconds for the first time, you will shock your body. You will start shivering. That's what we want to do. And the thing that I learned from Gary is when, do you follow him? Do you watch all his shit on Instagram? So he talks about this a lot. We don't tell grandma to put a jacket on when it's cold outside. Yeah. Don't tell grandma just to relax and sit on the couch all day. We need to shock our body and make it work. So that's really my goal, is how do I make my body work in different forms and different fashions, every couple of days.
Yeah. Do you think that everybody needs to go and get a Gary Brecka, or do you think this is more of because that Gary Brecka, when you take those tests, they're looking at they're looking really deep into your your blood. They're looking at I don't even know exactly. I've had these done before where they'll go in and actually I ended up having a test done about 1.5 years ago because I was having gut issues all the time, Bill. My stomach was jacked up. I couldn't figure out why. I ended up getting this blood test from this doctor. It was a functional medicine doctor. And he's like, you have severe what is that called, where you get a bunch of yeast in your stomach? There's a name for it. Ed Milet had it and he got super sick. Anyway, I was having anxiety issues. I was having all these things. I went on this diet. It was an elimination diet where I basically didn't eat carbs at all. It was even if I did have carbs, there were special carbs that weren't specific to feed the gut that sugar, because it was sugar. And the crazy thing is, I don't even like eat a lot of sugar or drink a lot of sugar. I don't drink soda, nothing like that. But I would get these cravings for like a piece of dark chocolate or something. And that was basically my stomach was like, this yeast needed to feed on that stuff. Anyway, after I took that test, they ended up putting me on some medication, which was to kill that yeast. And then I just like literally stopped eating what I was eating for like the crap that I was eating, which like a lot of sugar and bread, like you talked about, bread. Like I love sourdough. And so my diet was, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd have like a piece of toast and, avocado or whatever some Californians do, right? That's what I was eating. And that was a sandwich through the day, half a sandwich or something like that. But that was feeding that a lot. Anyway, this test ended up showing that I had this going on. Stopped eating carbs, got the test done again later, started taking the medication, worked out regularly, and that went away. And I was not only able to think better, I was like, the food was just, I think, a big part of it, man. And I think a lot of us sometimes have these underlying issues because, again, just like you mentioned a minute ago, typical, family medicine doctors aren't actually finding the root cause or what the problem is. They're treating symptoms. And that's one of the biggest problems I think right now with healthcare. And I hope that, with this new administration and these new people coming in there, that's like actually what they're paying attention to, because I do think there's a lot of health benefits that come from that are opposite of what traditional medicine is. In fact, I think it's really opposite in a lot of ways. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I forget who this woman is, but she was talking about like how she has her patients come in. She's like, how much are you deadlifting? How much are you squatting? How much are you bench pressing? Like those are, kind of foundations for your age, what you're doing, how active you are. And she talked about like reversing medicine in that direction of more of the health, exercise, which I hope happens. But long-winded question, do you think everybody needs to have that kind of, blood work done like that? Because it's not cheap. I think it was like $700 for me to get just blood work done. That's not even including all the other stuff.
I don't know that everybody needs it, but I think if you want to live a healthy life and live a better life longer, if you're in a position like myself, I need somebody to help me with that because I wasn't overly educated on it, right? I lived a fat life for 20 years. Actually probably 20, almost 24 years, 25 years after I quit playing professional golf. Right. And I yo-yoed. I had the triple X closet, the double X closet, the extra large closet, just like other people that, struggle with weight and that type of stuff, because I had a really bad relationship with food, meaning I loved it. I loved just stuffing my pie hole with anything that I liked. And I didn't, now my relationship with food is probably 85% is fuel, right? And what I need in my body to fuel my activities and what I'm going to do. And the other part about that is sleep. So just within about the last 3 to 5 months, I've been super heavy into trying to optimize my sleep, which is hard because we have a dog that has a cough and she's on her last years and she wakes us up in the middle of the night. But I just reset my circadian rhythm because I was only averaging about 4 hours and 23 minutes a night with sleep. And
4 hours?
4 hours and 23 minutes. Yeah. So going through that process for 32, 33 days, and being on the road, it's a little bit challenging. But when I would take this sleep medication, which is slow releasing melatonin, because I have no problem falling asleep. It's like when I wake up or I go to the bathroom. I mean, just the standard things of, don't eat 3 hours before you go to sleep, no drinks within 90 minutes of going to sleep, make sure the room's dark. We used to keep our house at 69 degrees during the winter. Now it's at 66 to where we're almost freezing because we need it to be colder. No light, don't have devices in the last hour, no more television. My wife used to watch Friends every night before we go to bed. And we got a 50-inch, TV, just that blue light that you're looking at, the light when it comes in. But the one thing we haven't been able to eliminate is our dog that slept in our bedroom for, 17 years that we've had it. It's my wife's precious dog. So it wakes me up. But going through those processes and being very intentional. So like I've got this planner, right? Like a daily planner that I use that I built for myself and I give to like my mastermind students and stuff. And I have like this morning ritual to start the day, activating my business day, shutting down my business. And then there's a section in there to shut down before you go to bed. And I went back and I looked and it's always blank. I never did anything for that. And so now I have this whole shutdown, sleep preparation process. I sleep on grounding sheets now. I was doing, I wanted to get red light therapy. Like I went to Yellowstone a couple of years ago with my wife to snowmobile and I got wind would come through the helmet and I literally had frostbite and it was brown right here where the wind was coming through. So every night I would red light therapy, just a little red light that's outside of what I would do in my gym. I didn't realize that red light therapy, was a huge contributor to my sleep issues. Right. But so just like a phone, what percentage of human beings are laying like this when they're in bed at night before they go to sleep? I'll bet it's like 50-60% of people do
more
that.
than that. I would say like freaking 80.
Wouldn't surprise me. I don't do that anymore. So I think the one thing that I would want people to take away is I didn't realize how important sleep was to my physical being, to my productivity during the day, and to my overall health. Yeah. Right. I didn't realize how it contributes to dementia, cancer, all these things that I'm trying to sauna 4 or 5 times a week to get rid of, to red light therapy, to become healthy. Sleep is a huge, huge deal, and it's a big focal point for me now. So when I got done with that reset, I got to over 7 hours a night of sleep. So I added almost 3 hours, like 2 hours and 47 minutes a night. And I took that into my doctor, and he's like, I'm going to send this off to wherever he sends it off. But I'll bet that you now have eliminated 40, 50, 60% of the issues potentially that you were causing from only sleeping less than 4.5 hours a night, which I just would push through it, right? Just like a lot of other guys. It's not a big deal. This is common. I have other friends that don't sleep well, but they're not tracking. They say they're probably sleeping 4 hours a night, but it's really probably 6, or 7 or whatever that is. But the other thing is consistency. Just like with consistency in working out, diet, business, whatever, to achieve results, I try to go to bed at the same time every single night, 9 p.m. That's my bedtime, 9 p.m. So that means I got to start my shutdown at 8. And that's challenging because my wife and I used to sit in the hot tub and drink wine till 9 o'clock, right? And then I'm drinking alcohol, all these things right up until we would go to bed. We'd get done, we'd shower, we'd go to sleep or try to go to sleep. And so just getting a process in place from somebody that's smarter than myself and following that process and being diligent and consistent with it, I've seen a big change.
Hey everyone, if you are feeling stuck or not like you're making the progress you want in your midterm rental journey, I've got something that can change everything for you. Imagine being part of a community that's not only supportive, but filled with like-minded individuals who are driven to succeed just like you. Whether you are just starting out, looking to take care of your business to another level, my community is designed to help you break through those barriers. We're currently opening up registration for new enrollees, so if you're serious about building a thriving midterm rental business and you want to leverage my 10,000 hours of experience, this is your chance. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with others in the same path. I hope to see you guys. The link is in the show notes, and let's build something incredible together. Let's get back to this episode. Yeah, man, I think sleep is such a big deal. Like I usually sleep, I have the Ring or a Ring. And if I get, this is funny because I used to wake up, Bill, and like my wife and I, we'd look at each other and we'd go like, how many hours did you get? We like compare hours.
Right.
And I used to look at that and like, instead of actually listening to my body, like thinking like, okay, I feel like I slept pretty good. And then I'd open the app up and that app would like dictate if I slept well or not. Like I would like literally feel like I slept well. Then all of a sudden I look at it, it's like 5 hours, 29 minutes. But dude, here's the problem with my sleep, Bill. It's like, I wish I had my phone on me. I don't have it, but it's like, I wake up, dude, probably like 13 times at night. Like that little white line, so many times at night. Are you getting like solid sleep now? Or you're actually getting like deep sleep?
I mean, I'm getting to non-REM stage 4 and staying in that where I never used to. I didn't even know what non-REM stage 4 or REM stage 4 was. Right now I do. And I wake up still about 2 to 3 times a night, even going through the back end of this study as it gets better. But the difference is I can fall back asleep and I can get into deep sleep quickly. But it was all the issues that I had with the alcohol, the food consumption, the digestion, the dog barking, not thinking about light, temperature, all those things. Previously, I couldn't get back in, and it was like 7 or 8 times a night. But now it's like I still do 2 or 3 times a night. Rarely am I sleeping through the whole night without waking up, but I get back to sleep within about 60 to 90 seconds as opposed to hours.
Are you waking up like a bunch of times at night still, or are you still like staying pretty sleep?
2, 3 times a night, but I don't even know that I'm waking up, so I get right back into a deper sleep.
All right, run me through this real quick because I don't think people realize how important sleep is. Like it's such an important factor, especially if you're running a business. Like this is where I wanted to go with this too, because I'm curious about the grounding sheets because that sounds kind of cool. Talk to me about that real quick, and then I'm gonna get into the health and how the business and how those two, you're probably seeing a massive spike in your business going up as far as income, equity, because you're feeling good on the other side. And I might be wrong about that.
Almost 120% in 2024.
120%. Do you attribute that to your health?
Some of it, yes. I don't know how much, to be honest with you. So I believe in stacking. So when you stack, what I call value stacking, whether it's in life and health changes, sleep changes, whether it's in an offer, you're doing an offer, you're selling tickets to your conference or your program or whatever, and you value stack on it. You don't know which one, is really going to be the impetus when you have 3 or 4 or 5 things. But that's why I'm on like 18 supplements versus, 3 or 4, just taking a multivitamin. I've got D3, K2, zinc, magnesium, all that shit. And I see the same thing that's happened because I didn't wait and just try one thing. I went all in, and did everything that the doctors were telling me at one time. So I can't attribute everything directly to sleep, but here's what I can tell you is I have less brain fog. I can think, no question, my thought process is way clearer today than it was when I started this. Number 2 is I don't get that 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., exhaustion where I'm yawning and I've got to, I've never been a napper, but that's when I used to like chug caffeine, right?
Yeah.
So now it might be an NMN shot, of something like that.
Yeah.
Slam another bottle of Zen water, get some alkaline water in me, whatever it is. But I don't feel sluggish anymore, right? And I can go, and I really see it like when I'm on ski trips and doing that stuff. Because I would be sitting here in my office working, and I'm sure you do a million calls a day like I do. When you're coaching and when you're really committed, it's mentally exhausting when you're trying to help people, right? That are in a bad position. At least for me, it is. And I would really see that in the afternoons. I don't see that anymore. I mean, I'm ready to go at night. I mean, like it's 5:36 my time here, right? So we'll probably go till whatever 6:00. My wife and daughter, I still have to pack. I got to think about what I'm doing for this trip. And then like we're leaving on Wednesday. We get back Thursday night. Then I got to repack for a week in Aspen. I've got my full day when I get back at coaching. I got to sign a book deal tonight. All these things that I still have to do and run my business. And I got to get up at 3:45 tomorrow morning, right? Like right now I would be in, I don't want to say panic mode, but I'd just be like, forget that. I'm just going to push that off. But now I have the clarity and the brain power to know what I have and to be able to execute that without stressing. And that's the big thing for me. The sleep combined with the weight loss and that being healthier, my stress level has come down. I've been on fucking heart medication, high blood pressure medication, and thinners. Mm-hmm. So Losartan and Eliquis since I had my first battle with PEs in 2011. So whatever that is, 13, 14 years, yeah. I am off of both now.
Wow.
Right? That is a huge deal. I remember when I went on Eliquis, my former doctor, Peter, said, you'll be on this for the rest of your life. And I don't take it anymore. And those are the things that I look at. I told Craig, one of my goals was I don't want to be on medication. I want to choose what supplements I'm on. I want to get to a state to where I'm not forced to be on something to live or to be afraid of a heart attack or, any diverticulitis, which I've had, whatever that is. And now and like diverticulitis, if you don't know what that is, it's where, stuff gets stuck in my colon. I'm not supposed to eat nuts or any of that type of stuff. And I love like almonds and peanuts. I can eat that stuff now because I'm healthier. I do it in super small moderation. But I don't have to worry about that. Like even popcorn, I couldn't eat. For many years.
You can't have any berries or anything like that because they have little seeds in them too, right, Bale?
Correct.
Yeah, that sucks, man. But so I mean, again, I love that this, kind of you had that wake up call. It brought you into like, all right, here's my next chapter of my life, how it's going to work and how it's going to be. It's bringing you a little bit, not a little bit, a lot more freedom to yourself. You're making more cash. You're doing things a little bit different. Your sleep is better. But going back to what I was talking about earlier, are you still like having a glass of wine? Are you still like kind of, again, I see that you're like,
absolutely.
You're one of those guys. Yeah, you're still.
I drink water and wine. That's it. Honestly, I don't drink anything. I mean, I'll have, that's not true. Like when we go skiing or whatever, I will have a beer at lunch because you just have to have a beer at lunch. But my alcohol consumption is probably 40 to 60, 50% less than it used to be. And it's intentional. Don't get me wrong. I've got a wine cellar right there with 800 bottles of really good wine. People know me as, oh, Bill's the wine snob. I call myself, I am, but I love a really good glass of wine. But instead of my wife, our thing is to hot tub together at night. We love that, right? Or she loves it more than I do, but I really enjoy it. And it always used to involve a bottle of wine. And then there was, on many nights, even on like a Wednesday, there would be a second bottle of wine. There's never a second bottle of wine. And it's usually for me, 2 to 3 nights a week, it's a half a glass to a glass of wine. Because I don't drink to get drunk with wine. I love the taste. I love tasting new wines. And really, it's about the community. Like if me and you actually ever get together, since we've never really met in person, it started on Clubhouse many years ago.
I know.
Then, and if you like wine and being from, you're from Central California, right?
Yeah.
Modesto or somewhere around there?
Yep. It's wine city right around here. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, I would love to share wine. Like I travel with a wine suitcase. Like when I go do my ski retreats or whatever it is, I mean, I take usually 2 suitcases of wine, and I used to be the one to drink the majority of it. Now I just share it, and I'll just have a little bit of it.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I didn't realize you travel with the wine suitcase. But yeah, I mean,
Don't tell anybody.
This just goes to show, Bill, that you don't have to. I mean, you did change the way you're eating, but you're not changing. You're still enjoying glasses of wine with your wife. You're still going out doing the thing. You're just not over consuming it. Because before, you probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're taking a shot, and then you're having a nightcap before bed.
Shots. I haven't had hard alcohol for 27 years. But
all right, then Bill can't have hard alcohol. We know that. Don't ever give him a slice of or a taste of any hard alcohol. Wine is fine, but you're still able to do the things. I think that's where a lot of people get. They're like, oh, I can't go out and do this anymore. I can't do that. I think that it is important to make sure you have boundaries with certain things, but also like just don't overconsume, because that's kind of like the American culture is like we get plates here and they're freaking massive, dude. Like my wife and I split plates. Like we split meals. Like we'll literally split meals.
Yeah, dude, I was the guy that would go to Claim Jumper and get the biscuits and gravy or whatever. And then, hey, give me that loaded baked potato that's like 3 pounds as well. Everything that I do is in excess. And I think one of the things that we have to do as human beings is learn that about ourselves, right? And what are our trigger points? And so for me, what I've done is really the only thing that I've eliminated, Jesse, is Diet Coke. I mean, I love cheese, man. I mean, I love good, like the charcuterie, some good salami, some prosciutto, some cheese with the wine. That's like my favorite thing that my wife and I will eat. And I promise you, tomorrow night, and we're going to this 2 Michelin star Italian restaurant in Manhattan. Yeah. I promise you, I'm going to have 2 glasses of wine. I promise you, I'm going to have pasta. It may even have white sauce if I get really crazy, but it'll probably be some type of red sauce. But we'll have a charcuterie too. That's okay to do that once in a while. But I promise you, I won't do that again next week in Aspen. I'll choose the salmon, probably have a salad for a lunch. We'll get a tuna poke versus meatballs. You know what I mean? Just that type of stuff to balance it out. And I think that moderation is something I never lived, because I am super obsessive, compulsive, ADD, OCD, every acronym you could ever give a human being. I have all of those traits. And I think that's a positive in certain respects, but a negative in other respects. I mean, my wife brought up the other night, she's like, yeah, when the girls were younger, when you were fat, I'd go to the store and bring home their snacks to put in their lunchbox, and they'd be gone by the next morning, because I'd get in the pantry and have one, and I would eat all of them. I couldn't control myself. So I think one of the big things for somebody like me, and I think a lot of people out there, as I said, I had a really love-hate relationship with food, from a comfort level, from a stress level. I would just eat. And now being able to change that mindset to view it more like fuel and as a treat. So tomorrow night's a treat for me. We went to Big Sky for 5 days. Then I had to travel again. Immediately next day, I was in Asheville for 2 days at Tyler Kuhn's Savvy Summit thing. And they had all this great food, and I didn't eat it because I knew that if I did, I would gorge, because I still have that tendency, if that makes sense.
I think when you talk about this, when you say, you have that kind of innate ability of, it's not even an ability. It's just the way that you are, is you go all in on something. It doesn't matter if it's food. It doesn't matter if you like decide to get into ball pins, like, like the freaking pins.
Yeah.
Like if you get into something, you're going to go all into it.
Say that 5 times in a row.
I know I can't. I'm like ball pin, pin. Basically, man, like you're really involving yourself. And I feel this with a lot of entrepreneurs. They have that same mentality, especially the high achiever, like they're whatever they get into. It could be paintballing. All of a sudden they're getting the best guns. They're studying that. Like it's a hobby, but it's like they're really into it.
It's for me, it's skiing and snowboarding.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be on a mountain 40 days this year. That is a ton. It's because I'm obsessed with it. And I'm going to Big Sky and Aspen and Deer Valley. I'm not just flying to Montana to go to my mountain and Whitefish. And I haven't said this publicly, but I'm looking to buy a private ski resort. To be the first Airbnb that's ever had a private ski resort on it, to where I have a property. It's a ski and ski out condo called Chasing Powder. I told my wife, if we actually close on this, I'm gonna have to rename it, because we're gonna have to call this place Chasing Powder. So I'm obsessed with skiing. I have the best snowboard that you can get, at least for somebody at my skill level. I have 2 sets of bindings. I have 3 sets of boots. I have DPS $2,000 powder skis, which I have no business. I'm not good enough to be on those. I have 2 other sets of skis. I've got 2 sets of boots. I have the Carve app, so I'm getting all my data. Yeah. And here's the thing, like with snowboarding, I've had 9 lessons now, private lessons. Those things are not cheap. I have 2 more scheduled when I get back to my couples retreat before. So I fly out 2 days ahead of time. I go get lessons on a snowboard, right? I don't need lessons on skis anymore. I do that through the Carve app. I believe everybody needs a coach in anything that we do. So I've got my guy, Nathan. And I believe that we need to be all in. So you know what I'm doing tomorrow when we land at EWR, Newark? My wife and I are going to Big Snow, the American Dream. If you've ever heard of it before, it's the indoor 7-story tall. I've been there twice. And we're going to go literally probably get in 25, maybe 50 laps on, it's small, but we're going to just snowboard, turn, practice, right? I'll video her. She'll video me. We'll critique each other on the lift back up, and we'll work together, because we both aren't good. And she's way better than I am, but we want to get good. Does that make sense? So I think that commitment in everything that we do in life, and I did it for food. I just want to eat. And it was usually good stuff. But knowing that, I think you're right. It is a trait of most successful entrepreneurs, have some type of OCD or obsessive compulsive, personality. Look at Elon Musk. I mean, that guy's insane.
Yeah, I know that guy's. I talked about him the other day, and I got a bunch of hate comments on the internet about it. But I feel like that
leave
guy,
the political BS aside for what he's doing with the government, whatever. I mean, dude, the guy sleeps in his office, and SpaceX and the Boring Company and Tesla. Come on, he's a modern day Einstein, in my opinion.
I agree to that. I'm 100% with that. But I think that a lot of people just dislike what he's doing out there, and
they don't like him now because he's tight with Trump. That's one of the problems, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big issue. And not only that, but I hear stuff like, I think one of the last hate comments I got about it was somebody saying, oh, he just buys all his wealth. Like he just buys the companies. I'm like, buying a company and turning it into 30x, 100x, 500x, like that's a skill. And he didn't just do it with like one company. It was like PayPal. It was Tesla. It was like all these different things. But yeah, I mean, the guy just has efficiency. And if you listen to, I wish I knew the guy that, like, there's a guy that comes on, he talks, Mark Anderson. You know who that is? Mark Anderson. He talks, he works alongside, not Trump, but Musk. And he talks about how, like, he's in all these meetings. He talks to every single person that's on, the advisory boards, like, of what they have going on. Like, he's so available to them at that time, makes moves and moves on to the next company. And I think that there's a lot of ways to look at that and be able to pull back the curtain a little bit and be like, man, maybe this guy really is efficient. He's doing what he says he's going to do. And he's doing it in the matter of time that like many and most people don't, which we all know with the government now, it takes forever to do literally anything. And I know we're seeing a lot of stuff happen real quick right now. But I think that that's part of why this is happening the way it is because he's got somebody like Elon Musk that's going in there. And, whether you like him or hate him, this is what people voted for. Like I was
really hoping that, Elon and Cody would get together and have a baby because that would be amazing. Cody Sanchez, Elon Musk, having a child. The speed is critical. I'm a huge fan of both of them because of the speed. I'm sure you've heard the story. I don't remember what company, it might've been SpaceX or whatever. They're on his plane flying wherever. And the engineers told him this is a 24-month or 12-month process. Have you heard this story? And he turned the fucking plane around, went back to the office, and they literally solved the problem within like 24 or 48 hours because he knew that it would cost him hundreds of millions over the next 24 months to get that done. That type of urgency is the way that I live my life. Probably not to that extent. I don't have those resources, but I do believe speed is, a huge, huge asset. And it's, what I call getting ready to get ready is what holds most people back. They have a disease, and it's called inaction.
Yeah. Inaction is so important. Not only that, but just, I think that, I don't think he has everything figured out, but he also hires like the smartest people to do some of the best things. And I think that right there is like the Cody Sanchez 2.0. I've had conversations with her offline, and dude, that's what she does now. And it's crazy to watch somebody that has that idea. That's like, look, I know I'm not going to have as much. I'm reinvesting back into my company. I'm paying somebody $500,000-600,000, but I know with this $500,000 or $600,000 employee that we're going to be able to make $5 million off this one employee. And most people that get in business, and this for being this for a long time, they have a hard time trading that income that comes in to hire the person that's actually going to give them their time back and actually build the company. And they'll say, why it's hard to find these people. Of course it is. It's not supposed to be easy. You got to recruit them from other places. You got to do something big enough that they want to come work with you. And I think those are, some really key traits when you talk to some of these really high level entrepreneurs. Like, it comes down to that. What do you think on that, Bill?
I agree 1,000%. So I'm sure I've done 37 startups, all bootstrapped, right? I've had 30 partners in the 37 startups. I've only had one really bad separation, like really bad, like almost lawsuit bad. Mm-hmm. And it was literally over. We didn't spend enough money on our employees. It was when I was building my marketing agency, and he wanted $30,000-$40,000 like interns. And I wanted to hire 100,000. This was like in 2011, 12, mm-hmm. right? I wanted to hire $125,000 employees. And we ended up splitting over that. And it was a really ugly, bad split. And I believe in it. Like Chris that works for me, mm-hmm. he was a $45,000 employee when he started. He probably made somewhere between 250 to 300 last year.
Wow.
Yesterday was day one for a new employee for me. That's the most expensive employee that I've ever hired. But mm-hmm. I also know, Chris and I believe that employee will add probably $2 million to this business right here, right? To the coach and build short-term rental wealth within the first year. And those are hard things. And you see it. You have coaching programs, right?
Yeah.
I have coaching programs. You can create all the value in the world. You can solve all their problems. But when they get to the money and they're like, oh my God, it's $5,000 or it's $10,000 or whatever it is. Yeah. And then they say, oh, I can't afford that. Well, you can't afford not to do it, right? And I mean, I still invest a ton into my own education. I mean, I'm spending close to probably $200,000 to $300,000 this year on my own education. And I think people sell themselves short of what the value is in those types of investments in any way. I mean, how many people? I spend $11,500 a year for 4 family members. That's each. Yeah. No, that's not true. $11,500 for me, and then $11,500 for my wife for a concierge doctor. I think I pay $5,000 each for my 2 younger daughters that are in. But I mean, you combine that, that's like, what is that? Almost $35,000 Most people wouldn't invest into that, right? Yeah. Oh, I can go to my doctor and insurance will take care of the copays and that type of stuff. I mean, there are no copays with a concierge doctor, but every test I run, I'm paying, I'm getting the full gamut every 6 months. And it's probably $3,000 or $4,000. I feel very fortunate that I'm in a position financially to where I can afford that. But that's an investment into me, right? And it's an investment into my young daughters that didn't have that type of stuff, I didn't have it when I was their age. So I think a lot of people get way too hung up on making investments, and especially the W-2 people that have never been an entrepreneur, right? They just have a different mindset. They want it safe. They want it secure. And they're tied to that consistent paycheck. They couldn't live the life that we live, the ups and downs. I mean, fuck, I almost went bankrupt in, 2011 and 12, right after the recession, and then the flood here in Nashville wiped out 2 of my businesses, and I lost like $700,000 a year in income when I was making like $800,000. That's a huge thing to go through. And I think that the thing that makes us tough, Jesse, is being able to, go through that adversity.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy, like how once you go through those things, and although they are tough at the time, You know that if there's ever a next one of those, like you'll be able to get through it. In fact, probably easier and faster and maneuver that because you've already been through that.
Like COVID, man, I'll tell you. And I don't know your history, if you ever had a job or if you've been an entrepreneur your entire life,
That
but
job, yeah.
and COVID, I had a limo university, the coaching business. I sold my limousine company. I was the fastest growing company in the history of the industry over the first 5 years. Created inbound marketing agents, a marketing agency, shut that down to go all in on limo university. And I was the biggest brand in that industry. And man, I'll never forget, we were in Las Vegas, had 10X conference. And then I got Grant to come and be the keynote at the chauffeur driven limousine conference. It was the biggest buzz ever with just everything that was going on. And then boom, within a week, that was the last week of February. By March 14th, which is my anniversary, we were shut down, right? It just happened so fast. By March 21st, I was the first business in our industry to self-inflict going to zero because I know what was happening to the operators, my clients, right? And I sent out an email and to all my clients and to the industry. And I said, if you are not a member of Limo University, you can join now for free. And I'm going to service you until we get through this. There's absolutely free. My membership went to free. And I'll never forget, Chris, my COO, we're walking out of the office and it's June. And he's like, it's time. And I said, what do you mean it's time? He's like, it's time to do the short-term rental stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do it because there's the former biggest brand in this industry. Chris and I built his programs for him and all that type of stuff. And we ended up, anyways, it wasn't a good thing what he did to his membership. And I didn't want to get into it, but he convinced me to get into it. And I'll tell you, if I would have stayed in the ground transportation space, which I still coach for free, I would have zero revenue if I wouldn't have moved into this space. But they talk about the obsessive compulsive side. You and I chatted for the first time in Clubhouse, and that I believe was
2020.
December of 2020, right?
Yeah.
When kind of that whole thing started. And at that time, I still didn't have a product in this business by design. I just did everything for free. And I wanted to build, the obsessive component of knowing what works when you migrate into as many startups as I've done. I continue to always go down that same path and it continues to work. And that's one thing that I would tell everybody, whether it's your health journey, your entrepreneurial journey, your business journey, your midterm, long-term, short-term real estate investing journey, hotels, whatever it is, find your system that works, because it's not Jesse's, it's not mine, it's not anybody else's coach. Find what works for you from somebody or a combination, and then just build something that repeats. So I've used the same repeatable model for the last 11 businesses. And I've built every one of them to $10 million plus in less than 5 years. And I've exited out of all of them except for the last two, which I'll probably do for eternity because I've found the system.
Yeah, and you built the clientele already. I think the biggest thing, Bill, you brought up here that I think is important is that, like I'm in a program, it's $75,000 a year program. So this guy named Taki Moore, business coach. Most people don't have the mindset that if I spent $5 or $75,000 on something, I'm going to be able to 10x from learning from that individual. And I think you have to do these things. You have to go through the bankruptcies and you have to go through these certain kind of things to get that level of like, I know I could do this, but also for the people that are out there right now that are listening to this, that are just like, these guys are trying to sell coaching. I'm not. What I'm trying to sell is that the idea of paying for something, if there's a good coach behind there, and you are able to steal their 10,000 hours, dude, you're going to be fast forwarding literally everything. What you would normally do on your own would take 5 to 6 years, maybe 3 or 4 if you're good. You could do it in a year, maybe in 2. And I think that right there is where it's hard to get the W-2 employee to flip that switch and to be able to think like that with that monetary value that they'll actually get from joining something, and then the upside of how much they can actually earn on that. I've been trying to figure that out for the longest time, but I think it goes back down to mindset and just being around the right people. You've created a fantastic environment by having, your SDR Wealth event, by your coaching programs, your couples retreats that you do. You have the people that are doing the thing and you're around them all the time. And I think that right there, there's a method I've been talking about. It's called the CREM method: community, resources, education, and mentorship. If somebody has 4 of those pillars together and they're part of something, the likelihood of them being successful is exponentially higher than if they were just to sit there and try to do it on their own.
Couldn't agree more. You've got a pretty big conference, right? And it's coming up, correct?
Yeah. And that's,
When is that?
It's April 27th to 29th.
Okay.
in San Diego. Yeah, in San Diego.
And where are you at in San Diego? Is it?
It's Mission Bay Resort. So we're going to be at the Mission Bay Resort. We had about 650 people last year. We're hoping to get probably 700 to 900 this year. I'm hoping to get that. But
I can take I bet I could guess within $100,000 what that event's going to cost you to run.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I can tell you, I'm so transparent. 2.4 million bucks is what I'm investing into my event this year. It's a huge budget.
Yeah.
We'll talk offline because I paid double what you're paying somebody to come to your conference. We have the same person that's coming. Mine's still a secret, so we won't say who that is. But, if I didn't make millions of dollars in my build short-term rental wealth business, I couldn't put on the largest conference in this industry.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And I think people don't understand that. I couldn't do B&B camp that I did in Montana that 350 people signed up for. Only like 200 came because of the hurricanes that blew through. But that cost me about $140,000. It was free, except for the people that stayed on property at my house, so VIPs, right? Yeah. People don't look at that stuff. They just latch on to, you're a coach. You get the haters just like I do, I'm sure. Yeah,
all the time.
But so does Tony Robbins, so does Dean Graziosi, so does Pace Morby. Pace is Pace and I have become super tight. I think you know him, right?
Yeah, I do.
And it's funny because I hear so many people talk about him like he preys on his community, for them to fund his investments. It's the exact fucking opposite. He's putting his money into his community and making the investments. And that's kind of what the whole Gator method. He's probably secretly, he could be one of the largest private money lenders in this industry. And people don't know that, right? It's just, I don't know why coaches became a 4-letter word, to be honest with you. And, I remember my first real coach was Jeff Walker. Do you know who Jeff Walker is? Product Launch Formula. So, I mean, he's the godfather. He's the one that taught Russell Brunson, Stu McLaren, Amy Porterfield, Michael Hyatt. You go through all these guys that have been, and gals that have been tremendous coaches. Donald Miller, they're all byproducts of him and, who started. We all have to learn someplace. And I'll tell you, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for a guy that coached me for free. Thank God he was the coach of a girl in high school, and her name was Lisa Kiggins, and she was my girlfriend. And I was in the Big Brother program and got into golf. And then he started coaching me when her and I started dating my freshman year in high school. She was a year older than me, a sophomore. His name was Lowell Manzer, Bakersfield, California. So I'm a Central Valley guy too. Yeah. And if it wasn't for him coaching me for free, he was retired. Everything I have in my life, I would not have today. I promise you. He turned me into the 3rd-ranked golfer in the world coming out of high school out of Bakersfield, California. And that opened up, even though I went to UCLA and dropped out after 3 months, that skill that I learned from him, the commitment to work hard, to dedication. He would, the shitty tin cup kind of golf course I grew up on was like a half a mile from my high school. And when we first started, he made me get out there at 6:45 in the morning. If you know Bakersfield, it's it's the armpit of California, and all the fog you guys get, it comes down and it's freezing during the winter. It's foggy, it's wet, and you'd make me hit 500 3-foot putts every morning before class. And then I had to adjust my schedule, so I skipped 7th period so I could go practice with him, before Lisa, my girlfriend, his other student, would get out, and I would walk down there because I couldn't drive. Discipline, work ethic, commitment, self-drive. Those are the things that I look at that separate the great from the good. And, there's no better example. I grew up with Tiger Woods. He's not the best example, but his father instilled that same thing in him. But he had tremendous ability. I don't think Tom Brady had any ability, to be honest with you. I think he is 100% manufactured by discipline, work ethic, doing the things that other people are unwilling to do. I don't think anybody in the however long he played, was it 21 years in the NFL? I don't think anybody outworked that guy. And I hated him when he was a quarterback, but I respect him probably more than any other athlete that I've ever seen based on his work ethic and his commitment to his body, his health, the longevity that he had in that sport was unbelievable.
Crazy. Yeah, 20-something years. He's almost like, what is Brett Favre like? Didn't Brett Favre do 15, 16 years. I don't remember. He retired like 10 times, so I can't even tell. Remember that he'd retire and cry every year and be like, oh my God, Favre's crying again. And the next year he'd cry all over again. Oh my God, that was the whole thing. But you're right, man. I just listen to every year I go back and listen to Relentless. And it's a book that have you read that? Have you read that book yet? Yeah, it's Tim Grover. He was Michael Jordan's coach. And dude, he just talks about how like that guy was just such a, not only was he gifted, but he was like exactly what you're talking about right now. Would show up before everybody else, would meet on the court. You'd call him and say, hey, meet me at the court. It's 3 a.m. He was there already, prepping before the day, like just all these crazy things. And he talked about
But you hear the same shit, right? About Kobe, about Tiger, Usain Bolt, everybody that ascends to the top has that. And I think that's what people miss. And you can learn that. You don't have to be born with it. You absolutely can learn those traits. Just outwork everybody else. I mean, do it's what I call the 2 extra steps. Do the stuff that everybody else is unwilling to do. It's that simple. If you do that, if it's the right stuff, not the bad stuff, you will have a tremendous competitive advantage in anything that you're doing.
100%, man. But I think again, most people just don't. They want quick. They want it fast. They want to get rich quick schemes. I think that's right there why coaching was put on that, became that 4-letter word, because there was a bunch of shitty coaches out there that were saying you can be a billionaire if you do this and this and that put the bad name out there. But there's a whole lot of coaches that are really freaking amazing. And to go back to what you're saying now, I definitely agree with you that people can be trained to do these things, but they have to be willing to get up and do the work and stay doing it long enough that you don't quit. I think that's another thing where people will do these things for a short amount of time, expect things to happen right away, but you got to do it for like decades. And I don't think most people realize that.
I agree with you 1,000%. There's one thing that I tell every single person before they join one of my programs. And if you are not willing to sit in the front row and raise your hand and ask questions publicly, do not join my program or anybody else's. Because if you're not the information, the value seeker, and you sit in the back and you keep your head down and you don't engage, it's a waste of money. You need to know that about yourself before you invest into any program.
Yeah. And I bet you're just like me, where you could talk to somebody for 2 minutes and know instantly if they're going to kick ass in your class or if they're it's going to take them a while to get moving. There's just a spark of energy that somebody has. Bill, you have that. You've always had that since the first day I met you. I continue to watch you not only get slimmer, stronger. I'm excited about, you want to talk about STR Wealth, and we'll talk about where we can find you. And let's jump into STR Wealth real quick. That's going to be this year at the end of the year. Are you guys doing it quarter 3 this year?
It's going to be July 22nd through the 25th. Officially the 23rd, 24th, 25th. We'll have a VIP day, something we've never done beforehand. It's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee, Music City Center again, different venue, bigger, expecting 4,000 to 5,000 people.
Wow.
Really focused on work. We only have 6 people on the main stage this year. Where it was really heavily laden, really workshop heavy, like tracks, like all day sessions. Like I've got Pace Morby, Jerry Norton, the flipping master, coming in, and they're doing an all day track on fast money, medium money, slow money, creative financing with Pace, all that type of stuff. Pace is going to do a keynote. We've got a hotel track. We're going to have a marketing track. We've got a co-hosting track, to where all this education, it's really going to be workshop focused as opposed to like main stage type of stuff. Coach Michael Burt, the winningest. If you know who Michael Burt is,
I know. Exactly.
He's amazing. He was a client of mine many years ago before he got on Grant's stage.
That's awesome.
Unbelievable, personal self-help business coach. He's going to be one of our keynotes, and then he's going to do a workshop as well. So I'm really excited about it. It'll be the biggest one we've ever done. I think it's going to be awesome.
Most expensive too. I mean,
yeah. I told Sjogren, because he's not overly involved in like the planning and the day-to-day stuff. So that's most of my team. And I have a former meeting planner that kind of runs all the stuff for us now, but we spent like 1.8 million last year and lost like $240,000, and we're going to 2.4 this year. And he's like, dude, I hope we don't lose like 600 grand. So we made $1 million in the first 3 events that we did in the first year and a half.
Yeah.
And we had to bank that. Just like when we have a W-2 where we're making money in our primary business, we need to bank it before we go and make a real estate investment, right? And so we had 930 grand after we did the SCR Wealth Conference, then the Miami Small Retreat, and then the next SCR Wealth Conference. and I didn't want to level up because you know how expensive these things are.
Freaking crazy, yeah.
And I said, I do not want to move out of the space, the honky tonk that we could put 1,000 people into. And then I was going to go there the next year again, and literally, I can't remember the name, the company that owns Opry, the Opry, I can't remember the name of it, but they shut it down and they closed it to remodel it. Now it's Luke Combs, honky tonk, and that they rebranded it and did a partnership with him. So I had to go to the Music City Center. And the problem is like, just some information for you. As soon as you bust 1,000 people, your cost is going to skyrocket and your venue is going to be really challenging. Now you stay in San Diego, you do it Mission Bay, then you move over to the convention center, you'll be cool. But when you go to the convention center, man, holy smokes, labor, moving in, paying union stuff, overtime, it's insane. Last year we spent like $400,000 in labor. And just because of the setup now, I don't know like how you run yours, if you have like a lot of sponsors. I know you haven't been to one of mine yet, but last year we had 75,000 square feet was just our vendor area. And I've doubled that size this year. Right. Dang. So, and people don't understand, I am literally vendor first and attendee second, because I've got to generate $1.5 million in vendor sponsorships this year, or I will lose money. Right. And people don't understand that. And, there's a reason that my ticket prices, are $600 to start with. And it's super expensive, but I look at it just like any other business, and we benefit, you benefit running yours. I benefit running mine. Mike does all that type of stuff. Yeah. But man, it is one of the biggest risks.
Oh, it is.
And we're the plan is we're leaving Nashville. This will probably be we're negotiating right now to go to Vegas, and or to Orlando, because we're going to need bigger space. We have maxed out what we can do here in Nashville. I mean, I could go to 10,000 here, but my cost is just way too high to do business here. It's cheaper to go to one of those towns. Dude,
California is expensive as hell. I mean, just for 600, 700 people, you're looking at pretty damn close to $400K, which is wild. It's a lot, man. But again, I think these things,
if you re-engineer those numbers, you've got to stay as close as you can to about $750 a person in total expense. Don't ever go over $1,000. Then you're going to start losing money 100%.
Yeah. Last year we lost money, man. We lost probably about right around like 80,000, maybe 90,000. Although we do sell from the stage and all that. You guys probably do that too. Nobody else was selling anything. I was talking about my company and what we do when we offer. So
we don't allow that, actually.
You guys don't allow that on yours. Do you sell your stuff? Do you
in
sell
our booths? Yes. Like on the vendor floor, 100%. Like even me and Mike, we don't allow links or QR codes or any of that stuff because I don't want them to be sold. Grant learned a really hard lesson when he started allowing people to do that. And it was great when Russell Brunson sold $4 million in 2 hours, right? And he made $2 million at 50% of that.
Yeah.
And that was the same year that Mike Burt got on Grant's stage. But then it started going downhill because it just turned into a pitch fest. So I am hardcore, no links, no pitching, no nothing. If you want to pitch, you can do it from your booth on the showroom floor.
Yeah. But what you're saying right now is most important. I hope anybody that's ever going to put an event out, always make sure that your vendors are taken care of before you're even, because they're going to be the people that are coming back next year. They're going to be putting money back into it. They got to feel like they walk away with some type of value. And a reason to come back again next year. Keep in mind, a lot of these vendors are like, they just fly to these to check them out to see if they're good or not. And they will say like, we're not going to do this again, or they will come back. And I think that right there, Bill, which you've been really good at, is keeping those relationships long-term. You've done this your entire life. And that's why we still stay connected, is even through Clubhouse, you have a gift of being able to connect with people, be able to talk to them, open up and be vulnerable and actually talk about the things that are important. And I think that's a skill that not a lot of people have. You definitely do. And I think it's awesome to continue to watch you grow. So for those of you that are listening to this or watching this, make sure to go out to the STR Wealth Conference in July. I'm going to leave the links and information down in the show notes. Bill, where can folks find you if they want to connect with you on Facebook or Instagram or wherever else you got links?
Instagram, Bill Faeth 73. It's Faeth. I wish I owned my own name, but I don't. Build Short-Term Rental Wealth Facebook group, got 33,000 people in that group, just trying to give back as much as we can every single day. billfaeth.com. I'm pretty much everywhere. If you just type in Bill Faeth into Google, you'll find all that stuff. I'm on LinkedIn, TikTok, probably just like Jesse. And don't forget about the Midterm Rental Summit, right?
Yeah, Midterm Rental Summit.
The last week of April, correct? In San Diego.
29th in San Diego. Yeah. Bill, it's been a pleasure, man. You've said it all.
We're done? It's only been an hour and 15 minutes.
An hour and 15 minutes, man. What do you want to go? Like 3 hours?
I thought we were going to do, Joe Rogan style here and go till midnight.
If we were sitting in this couch together right here, I would definitely do that with a glass of wine with you. But I think, I was listening to the 3-hour freaking Alex Hormozy on Diary of a CEO. Have you listened to that one yet?
I've only listened to one podcast episode in my life.
Are you serious?
Yep. And I don't even, it was The New Heights. It was actually Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey. It's the only time I've ever listened to a podcast.
Are you serious?
100%. I don't listen to podcasts. I like to read real books. I don't do audiobooks. The only book I've listened to is Jab, 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 Right Hook from Gary Vaynerchuk, and he did a great job. I am a guy that reads a book 4 to 5 times. I'm not a guy that reads 100 books in a year. I literally had Mike, you know who Mike Michalowicz is, Profit First?
Yeah. Yep.
Had him at my second conference. We became super tight after the night after he spoke, and I had never heard of the Pumpkin Plan before. And it's probably his best book, to be honest with you. We were in the Comfort Inn, and he was down still holding court, helping people and teaching them about Profit First at like 11 o'clock at night when I got back to the hotel. And he's like, "Hey, I heard you travel with wine." And I'm like, "Who told you that?" He's like, "That guy right there." I said, "I don't have my wine suitcase, but I do have a bottle in my room." And it was a really nice bottle of Scarecrow, if anybody knows what Scarecrow is. We went up and we cracked it, and he said, "Tell me about your investing strategy." Well, make a long story short, that means the story's already too long because we were supposed to wrap up. Sorry. My investing strategy of how I own my properties is exactly the Pumpkin Plan. And I had never heard of the Pumpkin Plan. And he's like, if you've seen him speak, he does all these gyrations with his body. He like goes crazy. He's like, "I'll be right back." And he goes down to his room and grabs the Pumpkin Plan and brings it up. And he's like, "I need you to read this." Nobody knows this. I've never shared this. That was probably 12:30 at night. I mean, it's way past my bedtime. I'm a 9 o'clock guy, and I usually get up at 4 or 5. I had to be at the Wild Horse Saloon at 6:45. I did not go to sleep. I read the Pumpkin Plan that night, and I literally probably got through about 60% of it. And I got his cell number that night. I texted him when I was walking. I said, "Hey, I'm walking to the Wild Horse. It's like 6:40. It was just a couple blocks away to get ready for the second day. Thanks for coming. By the way, I read like 280 pages of the Pumpkin Plan last night, and I absolutely love it. Thank you." And he replied maybe an hour later. He's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You stayed up all night reading the book? You got day 2 of the conference." I'm like, "Yeah, it was awesome." And so we just connected, to go over that. And it was almost identical. That book is how I ended up investing. But that was the connection for him and I, and him and I had become super close since then. I love that book. I would highly recommend you read it. Send me your address. I'll send you a copy. Because I think that is really how I've ran every one of my businesses that have been successful. The ones that weren't were the ones when I was chasing money.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like the worst thing to do. Bill, this has been a pleasure, man. You got to pack like 4 times. I know that you're going to be flying all over the place. You're still showing up here anyway, but
man, most importantly, Jesse, what's the website for the Midterm Rental Summit? Is it midtermrentalsummit.com?
It is the midtermrentalsummit.com. You got
April 27th through 29th. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Mission Bay Resort, San Diego. I am flying on the 30th or 31st, whatever the last day is. Wait, that's April, right?
April, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's not true. I'm going to Deer Valley the first week of April. I'm going to see if I can make it to your conference.
Yeah, I would love to have you there, man. I'll shoot you a note and we'll get you over there. We'll get you going.
Awesome.
We'll get you on there. Maybe we'll throw you up on stage too, Bill, if you want to do that.
Dude, I just want some, good tacos El Gordo or something down there. There's no good Mexican food here.
There's so much good Mexican out here. You were born and raised in Baker. I didn't realize you were from Bakersfield. Maybe you told me that a long time ago. And
born in Long Beach and grew up in Bakersfield. 21 years of my life. Loved it, but don't miss it.
Good old Baco, right?
The best Mexican food in the world is in a small town about 20 minutes outside of it. It's called El Jacalito.
Really?
And a town called Arvin that you've probably, unless you dirt bike, you've probably never heard of it before.
Never heard of it.
Best Mexican I've ever had in my life. And I had godparents that were from Rosarita Beach. We'd go down there, Ensenada, Rosarita every year with them. And I loved her homemade stuff. But man, that place, it's still there. It's been there for like 40 years. Just a little shithole in the wall, never expanded, same family. If I could eat anything the rest of my life, Jesse, it would just be
super authentic.
Grandma's beans and rice, some carne asada. Man, I just love, Mexican food. I miss it. That's the one thing I hate about not living in California anymore.
Dude, you know what's crazy? I don't even like Mexican food because I grew up eating it.
Are you Mexican?
Yeah. So
how do you not like Mexican food?
Bro, I just don't like it, man. I've had it. Every meal that we ever had as a kid, we had beans, rice. You have eggs, beans, and rice. You have spaghetti, beans, and rice. Like that's literally what happens in a Hispanic family. It doesn't matter what you're eating. And you're not using a fork either, Bill. You're using tortillas.
I know. I grew up with godparents. They were basically my grandparents growing up, and I loved all of that. But I wasn't forced to eat it every single day. I mean, there is nothing better for breakfast than an amazing chorizo and egg with beans and rice burrito.
Dude,
and you can't find anything good outside of California for that.
That's true. You're absolutely right. Maybe in Texas.
No, that's fucking Tex-Mex, man. That's not the same. You know that.
Right. You're probably right. Yeah, you're right. A good old taco truck. I know they got those in Bakersfield.
Dave's Tacos, man. They were the best. I miss that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, see, now I'm thinking about food. I'm going to go get I'm like 18 hours left in my fast. Now I'm thinking about Mexican food.
We got to knock that off. Bill, it's been a pleasure, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you for listening to the JV podcast. I'm Jesse Vasquez, your host. I appreciate you for listening. And if you could do me a huge solid, go like and subscribe to this. This helps us tremendously. And as always, thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your day.